You work harder than your parents ever did, yet you cannot afford half of what they owned. You are told it is because of inflation or corporate greed or bad luck, but that is a lie. There is a secret economic law operating in the background of your life that guarantees the rich get richer and you get poorer no matter how hard you work. It is not a conspiracy theory, it is the physics of money printing, and it is called the Cantillon Effect. I am Tom, and this is The Wealth Collapse. Subscribe now to stay ahead of the curve, because when the history books are written, you will want to be one of the few who saw it coming. To understand why your life is getting more expensive while the stock market hits all-time highs, we have to go back to 18th century France. An Irish banker named Richard Cantillon was watching the world change. He noticed something that everyone else missed. He noticed that when the king printed more money, or when gold poured into the country from the New World, prices did not rise for everyone at the same time. He realized that money is not neutral. When new money enters an economy, it enters at a specific point. The people who get that new money first are the winners. They get to spend it while prices are still low. They buy land, they buy businesses, and they buy influence. But as that money circulates through the economy, it drives prices up. By the time that new money reaches the hands of the common laborer or the farmer, prices have already risen. The laborer is working for the same wage, but his bread costs twice as much. The early receivers of the money rob the purchasing power of the late receivers. This observation is known as the Cantillon Effect, and it is the single most important concept in modern economics that you were never taught in school. It explains why we have massive wealth inequality today. It explains why a banker on Wall Street can make in a year what a doctor makes in a lifetime. It is not because the banker contributes more value to society. It is because the banker is standing next to the fountain of money, and the doctor is standing miles downstream waiting for the trickles. In our modern world, the king has been replaced by the Federal Reserve, and the gold from the New World has been replaced by quantitative easing. When the Federal Reserve prints $1 trillion, they do not drop it from helicopters over poor neighborhoods. They do not mail checks to teachers or firefighters. They inject it into the banking system. They buy treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities from massive institutions like BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs. These institutions are the Cantillon insiders. They get the money first. They get it at near zero interest rates. What do they do with this fresh cash? They do not buy groceries. They do not pay rent. They buy assets. They buy stocks. They buy corporate bonds. They buy real estate. This massive wave of buying pressure drives up the price of assets. This is why the stock market soared in 2020 while the real economy was shut down and millions were unemployed. The money printer was running and the first receivers were buying everything in sight. This creates the illusion of prosperity. If you own assets, if you have a 401k or a house, you feel richer. This is what economists call the wealth effect. They tell us this is good. They say that if people feel rich, they will spend more and the wealth will trickle down. But the Cantillon effect proves that trickle down is a lie. The wealth does not trickle down, the inflation trickles down. By the time the money moves from the banks to the corporations, to the wages of the workers, years have passed. The prices of homes have doubled, the price of a used car has exploded, the cost of food is up 50%, the worker gets a 3% raise and is told to be grateful, but in reality they have taken a massive pay cut. The purchasing power was stolen from their paycheck before they even received it. It was transferred to the people who bought the assets before the inflation hit. This is the mechanism of modern feudalism. It creates two classes of people, the asset class and the wage class. The asset class benefits from inflation. Their debt gets cheaper and their property values go up. The wage class is destroyed by inflation. Their costs go up and their savings are vaporized. The Cantillon effect acts as a silent, invisible tax that transfers the life energy of the working population to the balance sheets of the financial elite. It is legal plunder on a global scale. The tragedy is that most people do not see this mechanism. They feel the pain, but they blame the wrong things. They blame the grocery store for raising prices on eggs. They blame the gas station owner. They blame immigrants or foreign wars. They fight each other in a culture war while the financial war is being waged against them from above. The grocery store owner is not the villain. He's a victim of the Cantillon effect, just like you. His costs are rising because the currency is being debased. He has to raise prices just to stay in business. The real villain is the system that privileges the creators of money over the earners of money. We have to look at the scale of this theft. Since the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve has expanded its balance sheet by nearly $8 trillion. That is $8 trillion of new money injected directly into the financial veins of Wall Street. Where did it go? It went into the everything bubble. We have bubbles in stocks, bubbles in real estate, bubbles in bonds, and bubbles in luxury watches and art. This is not natural growth. This is monetary distortion. Think about the housing market. A house is 4 walls and a roof. It does not become more productive over time. It does not invent new technology. Yet the price of the average home has skyrocketed. Why? Is it because houses are better? No. It is because the money is broken. The Cantillon insiders used their cheap credit to buy up neighborhoods, turning single-family homes into rental portfolios. They priced out the young family trying to buy their first home. The young family is the late receiver of the money. They have to work twice as long to buy the same house their parents bought. They are running on a treadmill that is speeding up while the ground beneath them is being sold. This dynamic destroys the social contract. In a fair capitalist system, you get rich by providing goods and services that people want. You have to innovate, you have to compete. But in a Cantillon system, you get rich by being close to the money spigot. The most profitable activity is not engineering or manufacturing, it is financial engineering. It is lobbying, it is getting a government contract or a bailout. This explains the zombie companies. And these are massive corporations that do not make a profit. They burn cash every year. In a free market, they would go bankrupt. Their resources would be released to more efficient companies. But in our system, they can borrow money for free. The banks lend to them because the Fed backstops the banks. So the zombies survive. They keep hiring, they keep consuming resources, and they keep driving up prices for everyone else. They are kept alive by the inflation tax paid by the productive part of the economy. The Cantillon Effect also explains the corruption of our politics. If the government can print money to fund its operations, it does not need to listen to the taxpayers. Historically, governments had to tax citizens to pay for wars or social programs. Taxes are painful. Citizens resist them. This acts as a check on government power. But if the government can simply issue bonds that the central bank buys with printed money, they bypass the taxpayer. They can fund endless wars without raising taxes. They can fund massive bureaucracies without asking for permission. But there is no such thing as a free lunch. The cost is paid in inflation. The cost is paid in the destruction of the middle class. When the government spends this printed money, they are the ultimate early receiver. They bid away resources from the private sector. They build bridges to nowhere and study the mating habits of shrimp while the roads you drive on crumble. They expand the state at the expense of the economy. The psychological toll of this system is immense. It creates a society of high time preference. If you know your money will be worth less next year, you spend it now. You do not save. You do not plan for the future. You gamble. We see this in the rise of sports betting and meme stock trading. People feel that the game is rigged, so they try to hit a jackpot. They stop investing in skills and long-term value and start chasing quick flips. It turns the citizenry into speculators. The Cantillon Effect is a centrifuge that separates society. It spins the wealth to the top and the debt to the bottom. And the faster the money printer spins, the more violent the separation becomes. We are reaching a point of critical mass. The inequality gap is wider today than it was in France before the revolution. The tension is palpable. People know something is wrong, even if they cannot name it. So what happens next? The system is trapped. They cannot stop printing. The debt is too high. The government needs the inflation to burn off the real value of its liabilities. They need to keep the interest rates lower than the rate of inflation, which is a policy known as financial repression. This means the Cantillon Effect is not going away. It is going to accelerate. The transfer of wealth will continue until there is nothing left to transfer. This sounds hopeless, but understanding. The mechanism is the first step to survival. You cannot stop the Cantillon Effect, but you can position yourself to not be its victim. You have to stop playing the game of the wage class and start playing the game of the asset class. You cannot store your life energy in fiat currency. If you keep your savings in cash, you are voluntarily standing at the end of the line, waiting for the scraps. You are letting them steal your time. You must become an owner. You must own scarce assets that cannot be printed. This is why the wealthy buy art and wine and classic cars. Not because they love them, but because they are stores of value that the Federal Reserve cannot dilute. For the average person, the options are more limited, but they exist. Gold is the classic hedge. It is the money of kings, and it has zero counterparty risk. When the currency collapses, gold remains. Real estate is another hedge, but it requires debt, which carries risk. And then there is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only asset in the world with a strictly limited supply that you can hold without a middleman. It is the anti-Cantillon asset. There's no central issuer. There's no insider who gets the new Bitcoin first. The issuance is mathematical and transparent. When you opt into Bitcoin, you're opting out of the rigged game. You're moving your wealth from a system where the supply is controlled by a few to a system where the supply is controlled by code. The Cantillon Effect relies on your ignorance. It relies on you believing that prices go up because of supply chains or corporate greed. It relies on you staying in the dollar system and working harder to chase a moving target. Once you see the truth, you realize that you're running up a down escalator. The only way to win is to get off the escalator. We are living through a historical transition. The fiat money experiment, which began in 1971, is reaching its endgame. The math does not work. The debt cannot be paid. The only tool they have left is the printing press. They will use it until the currency is destroyed. In that process, the Cantillon Effect will go into overdrive. We will see billionaires become trillionaires while the middle class lines up for bread. This is not fear-mongering. This is history. It happened in Rome. It happened in Weimar Germany. It happened in Zimbabwe. And it is happening here right now. The names change, but the mechanics remain the same. The insiders loot the treasury and the common people pay the price. But this time, we have a choice. We have access to information. We have access to alternative assets. We can see the theft happening in real time. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to work for a currency that is designed to bleed you dry? Or will you take steps to protect your labor and your legacy? The wealth collapse is not just about the destruction of money. It is about the destruction of trust. It is about the breaking of the bond between the citizen and the state. When the money dies, the society changes. We are heading into a volatile and dangerous period. The old rules no longer apply. The safe path of go to school, get a job, save your money is a path to poverty. The new rule is own assets, avoid debt, and watch the money supply. Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them tell you that inflation is good for you or that the economy is strong because the stock market is up. Look at your grocery bill. Look at your rent. That is the reality. That is the Cantillon Effect, eating your future. You have the power to opt out. You have the power to be your own central bank. You have the power to secure your own sovereignty. But you have to act. The window is closing. The transfer of wealth is accelerating. Make sure you are on the right side of the transaction. Make sure you are not the one holding the empty bag when the music stops. I'm Tom, and this is The Wealth Collapse. We shine the light on the dark corners of the financial system so you can see the traps before you step in them. The Cantillon Effect is the invisible chain that binds you. Break the chain. Own your future. Subscribe now and join the few who will survive the transition.